welcome back. So the first two stages that we've gone through within startup strategy is lean startup and design thinking. I think that we've done those in enough depth so you understand sort of the key concepts that are there. So another concept which I'm keen to introduce you to is something called blue ocean strategy. I'm not sure if any of you have read it or have come across the term or have watched any videos or any lectures on it. But the key idea of blue ocean strategy is to make your competition irrelevant. Now, number one, what does that mean? And number two, wouldn't that be an amazing thing to get to, and how can we actually get there? So blue ocean strategy is really trying to move companies or your idea or your business out of a red ocean into a blue ocean, or indeed never to actually enter that red ocean. So I guess that the first question that we really need to dive into, and the first thing that we need to discuss, is what is a red ocean and what is a blue ocean? So a red ocean is essentially a part of the marketplace, or essentially within the industry in which you're playing, or in which your idea exists, where there exists a lot of head-on competition. And this means that quite often when you're going into an industry, there's a lot of focus in terms of the actual rivals that are in those positions. You're focusing really on serving in a much more efficient and in a better way a buyer group that's already there. And quite often the focus on within a red ocean is that there's often a competition on price. So within a red ocean, you will often have fairly similar offerings that are competing in lots of different ways. But because you're on a very similar market space, you're targeting a very similar buyer group, it's sometimes quite hard to differentiate yourself on anything more than price. So you might have a better service, for example, which is great, but again, we'll always keep on coming back to price. So a red ocean is one where we've got a new business idea. We want to take it from 0 to 1, but we've actually found it's quite a competitive market. So how can we really differentiate ourselves? Now, blue ocean strategy, or blue oceans, looks across industries. So it tries to take ideas from different sets of industries and combine them so that you're essentially making your competition irrelevant. Because when someone says, who's your competition? Well, actually, you might have multiple different competitors in different areas, but no one who actually brings it all together like you do. You might indeed actually redefine the buyer group that you're going after. So you might have a very similar service to somebody else in a red ocean, but actually your buyer group, i.e. your actual client, might be a little bit different, right? And so what you're really looking at doing is you're starting to see, where are the trends going? Where is there a little bit more interest from others? And you're trying to take some ideas across different industries. Now, whether you believe or not that the idea of blue ocean strategy is good or bad, or you're indifferent, I think it's definitely worth taking on board the idea in and of itself, because it just allows you to think slightly more outside of the box. And so what I mean by that, let's take an example they talk about in the actual book itself, Blue Ocean Strategy. They talk about Cirque du Soleil. And Cirque du Soleil, for those who don't know, is an amazing theatrical production, which includes gymnasts and has a whole array of things going on throughout the show. And what they combine really intelligently and beautifully is the circus and sort of circus acts alongside the theatrical element. So they to a large extent have pulled together two different industries, one which is really focused on theatre, one which is focused on circus, and combined them together. And what's so interesting about that is that the circus very much the buyer group, whilst it might be the parents that indeed pay for their child to go, the real buyer group, the ones that the circus is really attracting, is indeed the kids, the children, to go and actually watch these shows. On the other hand, if we look at theatre, for example, generally the target market, number one, tickets are quite expensive. And number two, generally the target market tends to be the sort of the older range, more adults. And so something that may be slightly more mature. And so what Cirque du Soleil did absolutely incredibly well was they managed to mix these two. They built up a huge buyer group because both kids and adults were interested. Adults were keen to take their kids as well. It's something they could go to and everyone would enjoy it together. And you would see both amazing acts as well as the maturity of theatre that was included in there. Now, what I don't want this to come across as is that we take one idea from one particular industry and combine it with another, and you've created a blue ocean strategy. Brilliant. Your competition is irrelevant, but the reason that your competition is also irrelevant is because nobody wants your product, right? So I think always take this with a pinch of salt. Whilst it's amazing to make your competition irrelevant and make sure that you're one of the only ones providing such a service, it's actually a lot more difficult than it seems when it comes into when you try to put it into practice. Because obviously, again, it links back to what we were doing in the initial stages. Are we still solving a customer need or fulfilling another customer want that perhaps we didn't know existed before? So I think it's an extremely interesting way of looking at a particular industry, and very much so those who are breaking into blue ocean strategy. And this applies in many aspects, whether it's yourself trying to build your own idea from 0 to 1, or indeed a larger company trying to build a new revenue line and thus going from 0 to 1 as well. These ideas have been and can be used across both of those. So this is really about opening your mind a little bit wider and thinking, how can I really differentiate myself in the market? And one of the tools which I really like and I really encourage you to use is something called the Blue Ocean Strategy Canvas. And what this does is it essentially brings together your idea, your business, and tries to compare it against somebody else in the market. So let's take this example here, where we've got Netflix versus cable TV. Now, what we want to do is we want to have a graph which on the x-axis, on the horizontal line on the bottom, has all of the different differentiators or factors that are relevant to your particular industry, right? So if you've got an idea in any industry, be that in the e-learning industry, or if you're looking at even drop shipping products, or if you're looking at actually building your own products and selling those, or if you're offering some sort of consultancy services, or if you're offering a software as a service, then whatever industry or idea, or product idea, service idea that you have, put that down first, and then think, okay, who initially comes to mind as a potential competitor, and put them next to you. Then think about your industry and put every single factor that you think a customer will use to make a decision. And then rank yourself. So rank yourself from 1 to 10 against your competitor. And if you find that you're following a very similar path, right, that one might be better than you at a certain element, or you might be better than them, right, but there's no huge differentiator, then you're sort of just following the competition. If instead you could start to build a strategy canvas whereby your offering really is hugely differentiated from your competitors, then you're going to find yourself being in potentially a much stronger position. And so, again, just because I imagine a lot of people can relate to it. If we take it back to something like the airline industry, a lot of airlines try to differentiate themselves on several different ways, be that on the comfort of the flight, be that on the frequency, the timing, the price, and itself. So all of these factors can come in, and we can have a look at actually how do we differentiate between them. Okay, so once we've understood this is how our strategy canvas works, this is how we look compared to an average player in our industry. The next question is, well, what do we do about that? Why is that important? Why is it relevant to me? And so off the back of this canvas, what we're really looking at is a 4-action framework. So what are the 4 actions that we can now take from our strategy canvas and implement into our business? So we're looking at all of the factors, and Blue Ocean Strategy argues that within those factors, we should reduce some of them, create more, raise some, and eliminate others. So if we go through that one by one, what we're looking at is, what factors are we actually eliminating? What should there no longer be within our particular offering, right? What do we want to change? What do we want to make sure that actually this is potentially a factor that we've had in our business before or within our industry, but actually it no longer is something that we're even going to look at. The second thing is reduce. What are we looking to actually reduce? What do we want to pull below the current industry standard? Because for us, we don't actually think it's that important. Let's say we are in the airline industry and we're looking at a plane flying from one city to another. Do the seats need to be as comfortable as they are, or do they indeed need to be more comfortable, or does the actual frequency of the flight really make a huge difference? So what we're really looking at here is reducing something which at the moment has an industry standard, but actually when we dive into a little bit more, we find that realistically we could probably test the market to suggest that actually we can reduce these, perhaps saving some cost as well. So think about your own business, right? What can you perhaps reduce that's already of industry standard because you're not sure that it actually at that point in time is the most important? Let's even take, for example, what we're doing now with these videos. These might not be the most amazing and theatrical videos that could exist at the moment, but the point is that does your audience watch your videos because of the theatrical element of it and the fact that it looks like a movie, or do they look at it to get the best content that they can get that's going to help them in their goal, help them achieve their goal? The next part is, what are we actually going to create? What's different that wasn't there before that you can actually produce now? And essentially what we're looking at, what's your unfair advantage? What can you add that others perhaps can't, either at this time immediately or indeed in the long run as well? What can you create that's going to really differentiate? What are these other factors that you can offer that actually when we build the strategy canvas, we can't even put a number on, or we can't even draw the part of the graph for the other competitor in the industry because there is nothing there. You've created something new. Whether or not what you've created is wanted by the market is something that we can test through the lean startup methodology and through design thinking. So it's not like we've got to guess whether we're right or not. We have a hypothesis again, and this is where these ideas and thoughts really come together quite well, is because we're not sure what's going to work, but we can be hypothesis driven. And because we understand the importance of testing our ideas with delivering strong customer feedback and then acting off the back of that through our build, measure, learn feedback loop, then we can be sure that actually creating something new, we're able to test that and see whether it's going to work or not. And so actually creating something new is what could really differentiate us and actually make our competition irrelevant. And then finally, what are we going to raise? What's going to be the most important factor that at the moment, the industry standard is at a certain level, but you want to take it higher. You want to make sure that actually when they see your product, it's so differentiated because of these things that you're now not only creating, which are new, but what you're raising. What are you putting more effort, time, and money into? If you're creating a marketplace, are you going to make it more interactive, right? We've got quite a lot of marketplaces that aren't necessarily that interactive, right? But are you going to create either create something new, or are you going to raise that level of interaction that you can get between, say, a buyer and a seller on a particular within a particular marketplace? So that's a very, very whistle-stop tour of Blue Ocean strategy. But what we're really looking at understanding from this particular part of the course or of this learning and understanding is that we're really trying to create some uncontested market space. This means that we're creating new value for customers, and therefore we're not subject to price wars. And price wars are essentially competing the price down because you think, if I've got a lower price, I'm going to sell more. And that can keep on going until all of the value in the market is going down, and the quality of the service or the product that you can provide just starts to decrease, and will erode those profits that once were in the industry. I would really, really recommend that you use the strategy canvas and sit down and take 20 minutes, half an hour to think through what that differentiator you've got is and have it stuck up on your wall. Put some sticky notes on there or draw on a whiteboard and bring it together, because it will just help you drive that differentiated offering. And it's something that we'll come back to when we get to the digital marketing part of the course, because here is where you're really starting to understand how you differentiate yourself from the competition. And this is really where you're starting to find your why as a business and understand where you are actually looking to win in the marketplace, the new value that you're looking to deliver to customers. Why is that important in marketing? Because these ideas, this differentiation, this why has to come through all of the marketing that you do. What are your two foundational and fundamental principles? For the interner, it's education and entrepreneurship. As long as we have those two core principles running through everything that we do, we should be in an okay position, or at least we're on a principled direction. And so this is where you're starting to build it out. So whilst it might be strategy, and we've seen that there are 3 different elements within startup strategy, sales and business development, and digital marketing, in fact, they all work together really, really nicely. And so again, this is really around how can we maximize the opportunity whilst minimizing the risk of failure. Let's look at what we could potentially create. And before investing loads into what we're creating, let's test it with the market, with some methodologies that we've already gone through. And so what we're really looking to do, therefore, in Blue Ocean Strategy is really start to now bring together how we differentiate ourselves, how we are different from the competition. And by being different from the competition allows you to go from 0 to 1. And so I think that from my own personal perspective here, and what I'm really keen for everyone to explore in a little bit more detail, is you don't always need to go completely different to the current market. And in fact, sometimes it's not the worst idea to actually, in the initial stages, follow a market that you already know is tried and tested and is there. But realistically, if you want to be able to scale, and if you want to be able to focus on your business and build it in a way that where you're not going to be just cost conscious and price conscious all the time, this is a particularly useful methodology and strategy that you can take and you can apply to your business. And so what I would definitely recommend, that if you do get the time, read through the books that René Mauborgne and Kim Chan have written, and then a really great complementary one as well, something called The Innovator's Dilemma by Clay Christensen. So both brilliant. All of those are brilliant books, some great ideas coming through there. And finally, what they all are trying to do is help us really, really differentiate that offering, because by differentiating our offering, by making sure that we're targeting, by making sure that we're targeting both the current customers that are in there, but also creating value for new customers or more value for existing customers, that's what will allow us to create a moated business, and will allow us to go from 0 to 1 a lot quicker, and then similarly from 1 to many even quicker than that.